It is Thursday, October 17th, 2019, and this is the Pro and Con Show, and I'm your host, Michael James Ott. Welcome to the show once again. Again, encouraging people to take in information from multiple sources, to focus on the who, the what, the where, and the when, as opposed to all of the opinion and associated bias from the different sources. So today, the big news is this ongoing battle with Mr. Trump and the House Democrats. So this whole issue with the Kurds and Syria and kind of this singular decision by Mr. Trump, again in opposition to what all of his aides recommended and his own party and of course the opposition party. He withdrew U.S. troops and certainly dozens, if not hundreds, of Kurds have suffered some rather brutal treatment now from the Turkish forces that have swept into the area vacated by the U.S. forces. And so now, so the Congress, I think it was 365 to 60 or something like this, including a vast majority of the Republicans in Congress, all passed this non-binding resolution condemning Mr. Trump's decision in this area. But today now, you've got, and the title of the show is NICKED, because we've got Nick Mulvaney, who has held a press conference, and during that press conference he talked about how Mr. Trump had ordered his representatives to and actually himself had talked to Ukraine and was withholding support, military aid to Ukraine in exchange for information on the 2016 election and also Mr. Biden. And so it's interesting because you go through, and again, the different information streams that you can look at. So Huffington Post is left-leaning, and so the title here for the Huffington Post a moment ago said Mulvaney, something to the effect of Mulvaney admits quid pro quo, and also I'll show you like CNN here. So here's the head of their here in the upper left, I guess it is for you guys. Anyway, the White House admits to stunning quid pro quo, which is Latin for tit for tat, or exchange of information here. Anyway, so this is the big news, is that Mr. Nick Mulvaney, who is the acting chief of staff, admitted this, and NPR, which generally is not left or right leaning, now they changed their headline. So Energy Secretary Rick Perry is resigning. He's also caught up in this Ukraine debacle. So he is leaving the administration as well. I just wanted to point out, like Fox News here, so the left-leaning news sources are reporting that this Nick Mulvaney and on and on and on about that. And then you look at the headlines for Fox News, which is more conservative and generally more Trump supporting, and you can see their headline is more about this negotiation over a ceasefire. The Turks are saying they only agreed, I don't know that it's any different, but they agreed to stop military operations. That's all they're calling it a pause. Meanwhile, the Trump administration is calling a ceasefire. practically, I don't know how it makes any difference. Um, but then the comments by Mr. Mulvaney are down here further on their website. So he makes quote unquote questionable comments, and the other sources like CNN and so on are talking about how they're getting reaction from people in the administration outside of Mr. Mulvaney himself, who are saying that they don't understand why he said what he said, and it does not make sense and is damaging to the president and so on. Now, the other interesting thing that Fox, in the small print here, they've thrown in Fox News poll record support for Trump impeachment underneath that questionable comments thing, and that's old news from them. Actually, this is they posted a news poll. Oh gosh, week and a half ago, and it talked about how the percentage of people in their poll that were supporting of impeaching Mr. Trump had gone from 42% in July to 51% now. Well, it's the same exact report, but yet they're presenting it like it's brand new information, even though it's roughly 10 days old. And now here, and then you get to Breitbart. So Breitbart again, encouraging people, please, I beg you to at least look at different information sources, or if you're not going to, again, try to focus on the who, the what, the where, and the when, and avoid all of the opinion. Breitbart is, they're cycling through their headlines here, and just a moment ago it said impeachment mania, and there was a now let's see, they keep changing their headlines. Let's see, bear with me for a second here. See, now they've changed it. So, but what they were saying was that it was amazing. So, this guy Nolte, who I've commented about him in the past. Again, he's not reporting the news. He's not reporting who, what, where, and when. It's totally and completely opinion, yet it's presented as a news article. And today, and I'm not going to find it here, but today he was saying, well, Congress is failing the Kurds. It's not the president that's done this to the Kurds, and the president that's failing the Kurds. It's Congress that's failing the Kurds. And he started citing articles of the Constitution where Congress declares war. And he's like, well, if Congress really wanted to defend the Kurds, they should declare war and defend the Kurds. Now here, and okay, so there are snippets, there are grains of truth in what they're saying, or what Mr. Nolte is saying. But the reality is that the President of the United States is the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. So Congress can declare war, but if the President of the United States is not going to command any forces to enter into a conflict, Congress can't order generals to do whatever. So, in the history of the United States, and the reason why it basically takes two branches of the U.S. government to actually declare and implement a war is because the founding members that wrote the Constitution said this is a serious thing. Starting a war, committing this resources, that should be something that is not easy to do. And so, while the Constitution says, yes, Congress can declare war, the implication is because the president is commander-in-chief, he's got to do something. And clearly, Mr. Trump is not interested in And in fact, one of the reasons why he's withdrawing the troops from Syria is because we got to get out of the Middle East. We have to get troops out of there, not put them in. So, there's no, Congress could declare war, but the president has to actually order the troops into battle, and he, would flatly refuse. So this is the kind of thing where, again, the spin. And so please, when you're looking at the information that's coming to you, understand where it's coming from. If the source is generally a conservative source, generally supportive of Mr. Trump or the Conservative Party, then their comments and commentary, which are presented as news but are really just opinion, they will be biased in that direction. And the only way to eliminate the bias is to either just focus on the facts, like for example, you could watch CBS Evening News, for example, and they're pretty good about just focusing on who, what, where, and when. You won't see a whole lot of commentary like you do on Fox News or CNN or whatever. And so that's one way to do it, or public radio. National Public Radio is a good source because, again, they have a tendency to just report the who, the what, the where, and the when, and they don't do a lot of, well, what do you think this means? All the opinion kind of stuff. But if you are looking at Breitbart, Fox News, CNN, Huffington Post, you got to look at the other ones too to understand how they're spinning the same information. They neglect to report it, or they report it in a different way. And it's incumbent upon all of us to be better citizens. That's what the main reason why I have the show, the Pro and Con Show, the pro and the con, the good and the bad, the for and against. We need to understand the totality of the information, the truth. And then once we have that, armed with the truth, pro and con, good and bad, for and against, then we can go forward. And admittedly, it muddies the waters, but this country belongs to all of us, all 340 million of us, or maybe even more these days. It belongs to all of us. And so we've got to, understand these issues in a more in-depth way. The truth does not reside on a bumper sticker. It's not a four-word catchphrase. The truth is complex. We have to absorb that, admit that it's complex, and then decide how we're going to move forward in a reasoned and reasonable approach, understanding the whole truth, the pro and the con, the good and the bad, the for and against. So anyway, at the moment, it appears like Mr. Trump continues to get himself into hotter and hotter, or deeper and deeper waters in regard to impeachment. And Mr. Mulvaney did not do any favors to the administration by basically talking about how it was certainly their intent to get information and withhold military funds. And he said, words to the effect of, just get over it. And then again, in the Breitbart, one of the articles you read through there, and they're like disavowing all that happens early on in this article, and then at the very end, the last paragraph basically states exactly what CNN and some of the other networks are stating. So again, the way these people, manipulate the information, you have to read it from multiple sources, or avoid some of these sources that have a lot of bias to them. All right, so for Thursday, October 17th, 2019, again, I'm Michael James Ott. Hope you enjoyed the show. Look at the old ones on Ott in 2020 or here on Facebook, and future ones, another one tomorrow. Until then, bye for now.